Okay, now joined with Alex Newman, our international correspondent, for another blockbuster story. Alex, this is really, I'm not even going to say welcome to the show. It's implied. This is a blockbuster, and we got to get to it. The Department of Education, and of all states, Tennessee, we're not talking about Massachusetts or California, the Department of Public Instruction in Tennessee of Education, they are now putting together a program that would require home visits to Tennessee families vis-a-vis through the schools, right? Is that, and they backed off of it a little bit, but tell the story here.
It is incredible, Duke. I mean, you'd think we woke up and we found ourselves suddenly in Nazi Germany or the Soviet Union or Mao's China or something. So they unveiled this plan. They put out a toolkit, and they said that the state of Tennessee needs to protect our children, apparently from their parents, and the state needs to care for the holistic needs of children. And to that end, they recommended a well-being check of every child in the entire state from birth to age 18, public school, private school, homeschool, it doesn't matter. And when you read these documents, and I did, we got them all, even though the government took them down off the website. They were talking about having government bureaucrats show up at your house, and they actually tell the bureaucrats, so you want to talk to the child as privately as possible, preferably without the parents there. If the parents absolutely refuse to let you talk to their children, you need to note the names, who they are, where they are. We're going to put them all in a database for unspecified purposes. And yeah, this is in Tennessee. I mean, we just had our Rescuing Our Children conference there last year. It's a very conservative state. Fortunately, the backlash from the legislators, who of course end up appropriating the money for the Department of Education, forced them to back off just a little bit. But they said they're only revising it. And the Commissar of Education, Commissar Schwinn, I call her Czarina Schwinn, said, "Oh well, it was all good intentions, right? We didn't have anything evil in mind. Sorry that you guys got freaked out, but this is crazy, Duke. It's absolutely crazy."
But Alex, this is kind of where I stuttered a little bit at the opening here. Why in the world is the Department of Education involved in any of this? If you're going to do this stuff, right? Why does it funnel through the public school system? That's one of the nefarious aspects of this. First of all, it's a bad idea. Period. If the state of Tennessee decided for the welfare of children, we're going to send state agents into the family homes, that would be fought tooth and nail, I imagine. But where are the fingerprints of the Tennessee Department of Education on this? How does that work?
Yeah, well, the Department of Education is the one that came up with the plan. Apparently, the Rhino Governor Bill Lee appointed Commissar Schwinn to be in charge of this quote-unquote task force that was going to check that all the children's holistic needs were being taken care of. And so they developed this toolkit where they were going to recruit local government, in particular the school district, to go send out these swarms of government agents to go break into people's homes and interrogate little children. Absolutely crazy. But unfortunately, Duke, this is part of a broader pattern that we're seeing around the world. This is the way that the globe is moving. The UN has a convention. It's called the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And Scotland was actually the first to take the plunge. But a few years ago, they passed a law, the Scottish Parliament passed a law mandating that every child born in Scotland, every single child, no exceptions, was to have a named government overseer. So a particular bureaucrat was going to be in charge of that particular child and was going to follow them from birth through to adulthood to make sure the parents were doing a good job, to make sure the child was getting the right nutrition, the right dental health, the right mental health, and all the rest of it. And when you read this document out of Tennessee, it's like ripped word for word from there, even though the United States has never signed on to this treaty. And so they talk about, the government bureaucrat who's going to show up is going to determine whether the child has any needs that aren't being met, and then connect the parents to government agencies that'll supply the needs of those children, including devices, by the way. Right? I wouldn't let my kids have one of these ridiculous devices if you paid me $1 million. And yet the government's going to go into these homes and say, oh, the kids don't have devices. Here, let's give them an iPad or a, whatever tablet thing. It's just mind-bogglingly Orwellian.
And with everything else in American education today, none of it has anything to do with education. None of it has any educational value whatsoever. It's not about teaching kids to read, to write, to do math. None of it. And the thing that gets me is you get another empty suit Rhino Republican in a deep red state who's paying no attention to how what this means, not even the least bit concerned about the potential constitutional issues with this, sending the Department of Education, the commissar, as you called her, sending her to be the task force leader. When you and I were doing the Common Core talks, we pointed out one thing. Arnie Duncan said the same thing, the Secretary of Education for Barack Obama. You have all these public schools situated throughout the communities of America. What better way to globalize than using the public schools, not the family home, not the local police or mayor force or the mayor's office. Let's make every school district how we tag this. After the break, we're going to follow this up. Back with our international correspondent, Alex Newman. We were talking just before the break, Alex, about how during this whole Common Core era, actually go back before that to No Child Left Behind and go Goals 2000 of the Clinton administration, what you had was this long-term plan to break up local control of students, local control of schools, local parental control of our own kids through this network of public schools. We saw that was coming. We warned people about that. Common Core was the next great leap forward in using the school districts really against parents. No longer partnering with them, no longer taking orders from moms and dads, but using the public schools, the district schools, to reach out and reach into the family home. This is what we're talking about now with this new Tennessee proposal.
That's right, Duke. And, they've been working on this for a long time. During the final years of the Obama administration, they were throwing out stuff all right and left. The Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services came out with a policy document describing parents as equal partners with the government in the raising of their own children, proposing mandatory home visits to every child in America, done through state and local government agencies. So, this is exactly the kind of mindset that animated Adolf Hitler. And people think, now you're bringing in Hitler. Now you're just, no. This is the exact same kind of philosophy that parents are a threat to their children and that the government is the protector of children. It's exactly backwards, right? Parent, whether you believe in evolution or the biblical worldview, doesn't matter. Parents are naturally the protectors of their children, right? Parents are biologically programmed to love and protect and nurture their children. There's nobody else on the planet where the love for that child comes even close to the love of a parent. And in the interest of helping, that 1 in a million child who might have a parent who's a drug addict or whatever, we're going to invade everybody's family homes. That's not what this is about. These people are not interested in protecting children. In fact, we know that they slaughter children by the millions through abortion. The idea that they care about the well-being of children is ludicrous. They care about separating the child from the parents, separating them from the family so that they can be properly indoctrinated. And you're right, Duke. The schools are going to be the mechanism to do it. So now they're calling them full-service community schools. This was coming up in the final years of the Obama administration. They funded it through the ESSA, where basically the school is going to take over the mental health, the dental health. They're going to do the medical checkups. They're going to make sure the child is getting the right nutrition. They're going to gather more data than you could even comprehend on your child than we know from Department of Education reports. They're going to use that to predict the child's future interests and behavior. I mean, this is as Orwellian as it gets. In fact, it's far beyond anything Orwell could have imagined. We have got to resist.
And the outrage from programs like this and reports like yours, the outrage has got them to step back. Talk a little bit briefly about what stepping back means. What exactly did they say about the program after people got wind of it and protested it?
Yeah, well, the legislature, basically, including the leadership in the legislature, said absolutely not. I mean, they probably got flooded by their constituents. What in the heck is going on here? And so Commissar Schwinn backed up a little bit and said, it wasn't our intention to be Big Brother. We just wanted to protect all of our children. And they keep using the term our children, like the children belong to the government. So they said they're gonna pull this down for now. They're going to revise it so that it reflects their original intent. They said that they blamed some lower level bureaucrats for this getting so creepy and Orwellian. But it's not over yet. They're going to push as far as they think that they can get. This was a trial balloon, and you can bet that similar programs are being developed around the country. In fact, the Tennessee program was going to be funded by a federal grant. So this is a national and international problem. It's not just Tennessee.
If we had anything like a sane, sober government, anything like a constitutional government, we would be the ones doing health checks on the public school teachers. The public school teachers who harass our kids with propaganda, who have no problem teaching sex to little kids. The public school teachers who do sick-ins and die-ins so they don't have to come and teach in the fall. The public school teachers who leave the classroom for Red for Ed to protest for higher teachers, leaving our kids without teachers. We should protest them. The teachers teachers who are sleeping with our children, the teachers who are abusing their privileges, the schools that are taking way too much liberty and giving us nothing back for our tax dollars that we use to fund them. We should be the ones investigating them. They got it exactly the wrong way. Real quick before we go, Alex, sorry for getting angry there, but my God, not only should they be investigating our homes, we should be holding them accountable for their failures.
You're right to get angry, Duke. Everybody should be angry. And in fact, the U.S. Department of Education produced a report saying that 10% of America's children in government schools would be sexually abused and solicited by a government school employee. Now they're calling CPS on parents whose children don't show up for their virtual classrooms. The government is getting out of control in terms of trampling on families and parental rights. If we don't resist, it's going to get worse.